Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to In the Bag. Here we are, y'all. It's going to be a great day.
Yeah, it is. It is a great day. We are breathing. It is a great day.
We had one of our dogs was real barky through the night. He's been real barky the last 2 nights. And so our dog is the one keeping us awake, not our 6-month-old today's son. So
wow,
it's a wild world. But my wife was getting ready, and she was like, "It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day." And it made me think of there's this short form bit, and I told her I don't know how popular it is yet, but I've seen it a couple times. There's this kid getting a shot, and he's like hyping himself up, and he's like, "This is great. This is great. This is great." And like you can just see as he's getting the shot that like he starts forcing like tears start welling up, but he's still trying to like, "This is great. This is great."
Yeah.
I was like, Lindsay, that's what I feel like you're trying to do to me today is you're trying to make me reframe this. So
that's really
it's wild.
funny.
How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. Just getting over a random cold in like the midst of summer, so that's very odd. But you know, it is what it is. Listen, I'm having the putting woes right now. I went in this week to putting league confident because I feel like I'm putting better just in general, and then just like ate dirt. Like it was so bad. I don't know what's going on. At this point, it's a mental block. It's not like I don't know. I'm a disgrace to my family right now with my putting, so I've got to figure out how to bring honor back to my family. But you know, I think you can't replace practice time, which I'm not doing. So you know, maybe I should start there. Maybe that's a good plan.
Yeah, it's always the putting thing is always fascinating because like if you've developed a hitch of some sort, one of the best things you can do if there is a physical stroke change that has occurred is to take some time off. Like actually don't practice, take some time off because of the fact that you'll kind of default away from whatever new habit you picked up. Mm-hmm. But if it is just like okay, I feel like I'm doing the same thing. I'm just like, I'm focusing on the wrong spot or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like practice, definitely. There is nothing to replace the beauty that is.
Yeah. It's just not as automatic. Like it used to be just kind of automatic for me until I got back to like 30 feet. And I don't know. I have like the yips. Like I feel like, and I know what the yips are just because of like in archery, I'd get them every once in a while where I'd like just release too early before I was ready or not, like not anchor before, or there's a lot of different ways I would get the yips, but I don't know. It's just like a mental block right now. So I think I'm with you. I think just like going out, and I think the mistake I make is not, sorry for the putting woes. This is my therapy right now with Robbie. You guys are just listening to it.
Here for it.
I think what I probably need to do, and I was thinking about this on the way to work this morning, is, we used to have like the gauntlet kind of set up in the warehouse. We don't really have that anymore, but where the basket sits, I couldn't measure out. And I mean, this is helpful to anybody in here. I think I just need to not worry about putting from like 30, 35, 40, any of that. I think I just need to go to 20 feet and just do like 100 putts a day at 20 feet. And like, cause that's where my rhythm's going to come in. And that's where my like stroke will like start to come back. And as I like up my percentage of this 100 every day, I think like moving back is just a matter of like power and where I'm aiming. I think that, and tell me if I'm wrong, Robbie, but 20 feet, if I can just get kind of automatic with like the feel of my putt and my putting stroke, I think that will translate backward. And that's what I really need to work on. Yeah,
totally. I have a student who I've been working with. He's booked several lessons because lessons are available. Foundationdisc.com. Get better. That's the tab, not a shadow, like a slam.
But also get better if you want to get better.
Get better. Like a get good kid. But yeah, so his name's Eric. Eric is awesome. And Eric is really working on his putt. And so he's putting in a ton of time and effort to try to improve that putt. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I really appreciate about in our first lesson is he was at 25 feet and he's a spin putter. And so he's trying to get through the basket just as anyone, even if you're push putting, you should be trying to putt through the basket. Mm-hmm. And he hit one in the first sort of reps that he did, showing me his putt on camera. And he was like, "Oh, that was good from 30. but he was at 25.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, he gets it.
Yeah.
That is exactly what you're trying to say, Brad, of like, if I get automatic from 20, then the difference is just aiming a little bit higher, giving a little bit more pop, because a good solid putt, like midway up the basket, even a little high at 20 feet, is still in the bucket at 25 feet.
Yeah. Right. And that's where I know it's that. And some things I realize bad habits I've developed. My stagger stance was getting wider and wider. So I was like halfway between stagger and like a straddle almost. So I got like really wide on my stance. So that was making me kind of off center to the basket. I also noticed this week that when I'm bringing my putter down, I was just kind of coming down to my thigh. And when I was coming up and spinning, I'm pulling to the right. And when I started bringing that down like toward like the center of my body where I used to, I'm hitting where so what I've done is like I was pulling right, so I've adjusted right, or I was pulling right, so I adjusted left. Yep. And then I noticed when I started bringing my putter down to the center where I used to, now I'm like putting left. I have to adjust my aiming point back to where it used to be a little to the right. So it changes, and I'm kind of embracing that, but I just don't want to not make the finals in the putting league. That's not who I am. So, just to your mantra at the beginning of the episode, today's a great day. I'm going to be better at putting every day until next Thursday, put up a big score, and then we're back in the ball game.
So I'm here for it. So I believe in you. And
Thank you.
Everyone goes through lows. Everyone does. I'm thinking to myself as I've been trying to get some reps in the backyard. I think even when your putt's feeling good, there's always that creeping suspicion. And this goes to every listener out there. Even when your putt feels great, it takes one bad putt to try to shake that whole mojo. And you just got to know that, like, you're never going to be 100% all the time. You're going to miss putts. You're going to be 86% and be a great putter if you're 86%. So that's where you just have, you got to embrace it. So I'm putting a lot of practice in, prepping for this creator challenge. And I'm like, man, I totally could see a world that the Tuesday before I fly out on Wednesday morning is going to be, I'm going to have like a bad session, and then I'm just going to be in my head the whole time during the event. So it happens, guys. Everybody goes through the woes. Everyone goes through the yips.
Sorry, one final thought. Isn't that weird though? Like if you have a bad like tee shot, it doesn't wreck, at least for me, like it doesn't wreck my whole like, oh, I'm not going to be able to drive all day. It's like, oh, that was silly or whatever. Like that was stupid. And that doesn't really wreck me, but you're right. The one, like, you boom, you just, like, airball a putt, you're like, I'm broken. Everything's wrong. Just one, it takes one. That's weird. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I think to me, it depends on what your strength is and how well do you know your stroke. So for, like, I know for a lot, I say this and this probably sounds super cocky, but on the putting green, if I have a bad putt, it has the opportunity to shake me a lot, and I know it can. But most of the time, I've worked so much with my putt that if I have a bad putt, I have some idea of this is what I did wrong in that putt. Therefore, I can make a quick adjustment on the fly and things like that. Whereas most of the time, if I have a bad drive, I do actually feel the nervousness throughout the rest of the round of, oh, so I just can't throw backhands today. Cool. That's exciting because there's 8 backhand holes on this course, and I'm already nervous on every single one of them. But it's because my backhand has gone through so many changes over the last 2 years that it just is a shadow of it. It's a good thing, but it is not my putt that is, driven into the ground. It's part of my soul at this point. So
right. I think that my theory is the same but reversed. I used to be a very strong putter, and then over the last couple years, it's just not been great. I think it's just where I'm switching putters all the time, and I've just kind of lost it, and I'm not practicing as much. So I'm like, man, I used to be such a good putter. What happened? So then when I miss, I'm like, oh, I'm terrible. I need to fix everything. And then I think I just have very low expectations off the tee. So when I hit like good solid drives, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm feeling good today. And then when I'm done, I'm like, well, I can only expect so much. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with that. But anyway, speaking of expectations, you guys blew us out of the water with last week in the comments and commenting your bag. We're glad everyone liked the, kind of like the speed. We'll call them speed recommendations for the bag. So we're going to do a few of those today. Got a lot of comments on Roast My Bag, so we've already started cultivating that list as well. For the we're only a couple episodes away at this point. So keep those comments coming. And shout out Disc RPM. Dave sent us some stuff that he's made, improvements he's made. It's actually making this segment a lot easier. So shout out Dave for that. So we can actually type in usernames and like just look at the bag, like kind of like as a pop-up window versus like actually going into the bag and looking at everything. So he's also made it easier for Robbie to search when I'm giving him a random number to search as well, which is very cool. So a lot of cool. He's making some other changes as well. So shout out Dave and Disc RPM.
Yeah. So we're going to do 2 bags today, and we're going to try to embrace the speed aspect. Brad and I talked about it afterwards, and we were like, it wasn't really a speed vibe. So ABB has picked a bag from the comments of last week, and then we will pick a random bag. So the first bag that we were looking at today is J. Patrick Mac is the username. And J. Patrick Mac will put, for those of you viewing on YouTube, we'll go ahead and put that on the screen here for you. And Brad, you want to go ahead and jump in and give your speed eval?
Yeah, I think
speed rec.
I think the big thing I'm seeing is like number one, I'm looking at the distance, like forehand, backhand distance, and I think respectable distances, but you're not throwing super far. So I think I'm definitely seeing some understability happening in your distance drivers. But what I wanted to point out is like there's a big gap in like from really 4 speed up to 9 speed in like the overstable category. So I see a big hole there, and I just want to encourage you to throw. Don't be afraid of the overstable options there. Like I think maybe T-Bird, I get why you want to get out of jail free, like crazy flex shot or whatever you need to get out of, back on the fairway or whatever. But I think like working in an overstable 7 speed that kind of matches your arm speed a little bit better, it's going to have some more utility for you. Also something like a Quake or something even a little bit more overstable than a Quake might be fun for you to try to use as like a mid-range option as well, because you kind of have a Truth and a Pyro there together. And I mean, maybe that, I'm sure one's like more overstable than the other for you and you haven't changed the flight numbers, but I definitely think that like distance driver, mid-range, or sorry, 7 speed, 5 speed, overstable option, like really overstable option might be a little fun. Even like a Grackle might be fun for you, or something like an E-Duke that has a flip, or like it will be actually probably straighter for you before the overstable finish might be a really good option as well. Just to start working in that overstable shot to your bag when you need it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I like that. I like that idea. Because so you've got this T-Bird 3 in your bag, but you have it labeled as Precious Child. And when you click on it and you zoom in on it, I can see, I think it looks like a G-Star T-Bird 3. Yeah. And if it's not a G-Star, it's got like a G-Star-esque stamp on it. So I would agree with Brad that it's probably, if that's Precious Child, and you're thinking Precious Child and like how I've used the term, then it's certainly seasoned in, and it doesn't have necessarily the same flight characteristics of an old T-Bird 3, which means that it's going to be colliding with your Saint. It's going to be colliding with your Crave. And I'm just looking, and now your Crave's 168 grams. So it probably is colliding more with your Saint that has a little more natural turn to it. But yeah, I think that some overstability could definitely help you there. I think something like a Sagara could be a really good option as well if you're looking for the current spice. A disc that I think some mold minimalization, some just decluttering overall is going to go a long way. Yeah. I'm just looking at your putters, for instance, right? So you have a Glow Envy, which is, we know what to expect out of an Eclipse Envy. It's going to go straight for a little bit, but it's going to fade a lot. That's the goal. And then you have an Eldritch, which is the TSA Praxis, but the remix version of it. So the Eldritch, I know, flies straight, but it has a dump at the end every time is the goal for it. It's not like a hard dump, but it's not going to it's rarely going to turn over. It's going to hold straight. And then you have a Cash. and then you have an AVR X3, and then you have a Saki, and then you have, so what, 2 caches, it seems?
2 AVR X3s.
2 AVR X3s, and one is a DX AVR X3.
Yeah.
So that DX AVR X3 is going to fly eerily similar between your Eldritch and your Envy.
Yeah.
So I just think that like if you're throwing 250 to 300, I would say like anything over 300 is good distance inside of casual disc golf. I just think people need to embrace and learn that concept. But when you really hone that in, if you're not throwing 300 consistently, the range variance between your discs is going to be a lot smaller. And because that's going to be smaller, overcrowding the options could make it very difficult to pick the right stuff. So I like the idea of the overstable, but also I would take half of your putters and I would pull them out for a round and see what you miss. I would take your Buzz or your EMAC Truth out, see what you miss, because I look at the dune, and that dune, you say it turns right. So I wonder if there's something between the buzzsaw and the dune, because if your dune's naturally turning right a lot, then it's going to be flying less like where it's at right now. It's probably going to be 1 or 2 ticks over.
Yeah.
So what happens when you need a Hyzer flip to hold straight or things like that?
Right.
What disc do you have there?
Yeah, I think I agree with that too. Yeah, I think definitely you're in that point of I'm guessing you've probably gained a little bit of distance recently, and that's why you're kind of experimenting with these flippy, like 10 speed and up kind of discs, which is kind of where I was for a minute. And then you're kind of like, oh, I can throw all these mid ranges pretty well, so you have a bunch of them. And then, I think that's a good call out, Robbie.
Awesome. So for our random bag, Brad, you want to pick a number between 1 and 221?
I would like to pick number 116.
116. Okay. And before I get to the page, I'm going to pick number 2 in honor of our favorite con man.
Yep.
So we are looking at Zeb Hossman.
All right.
ZEBHOSMAN. So we will, as Brad's pulling it up, we'll go ahead for our YouTube audience and get it pulled up on the screen as well.
Yeah.
Zed throws 400 to 450 with a 250 to 300 foot forehand and has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 discs in his disc RPM bag. So sort of the opposite direction of J. Patrick.
Yeah. All Discraft minus 1 destroyer.
El Clasico, some might say.
Yes.
So, Brad, do you want to dive into this one, or you want me to take it first?
Yeah, I think it would just be interesting. Like, I think maybe this says a lot about the courses or course Zeb is playing. I feel like this bag is really tuned to like one type of disc golf. Does that make sense? I don't feel like there's a lot of options, but again, I think when you if you're really throwing 450, I think I believe the distance. Not that I don't believe any of you, but I think some of us think we throw farther than we do, and that's okay because we all want to throw further. 1,000 rated zone, just saw that. But anyway, I think definitely everything's kind of on the stable side for a right-hand backhand, which makes sense. This will be a pretty overstable bag for me, but for someone throwing 400 to 450, probably a lot of flip up to fade, I'm guessing. But we don't have a lot of understable options unless like the buzz is flippy, but it doesn't look that old or beat up, so maybe it's just pretty straight buzz. Passion's going to be a little flippy for him, but it does seem kind of tuned to one type of disc golf, and maybe I'm just assuming wrong.
Yeah, I think that drive could be it. I think this guy is like a Hyzer.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, Zeb loves a Hyzer because it does have a lot of overstability here. You've got a Luna that I guess this CB team is a base plastic Luna. That's his putting putter. And then he has a Jawbreaker Z Flex and a Kratos that are both in the bag. That one's a little curious because I feel like in Jawbreaker Z Flex, that's like a really overstable feeling Luna. And then the Kratos has just been described as like a beaded, overstable Luna. Yeah. So I'd be curious what the flight difference is between those two. And where like maybe an extra buzz or a buzz OS could really come in and show. If you've got 400 feet of power,
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
a buzz OS could do a lot for you. I think a Wasp could do a lot for you, just staying inside the Discraft family. A Malta, shout out to our boy Ezra, could also do some wonders for you, just so you have something to go from the Kratos up to the Athena. Because as someone who's throwing a buzz, if you slam a buzz on Hyzer, if you do that too many times, that buzz is going to start standing up and holding really straight on you and not have the fade that you're looking for. And or if there's wind, that gets really, really tough. And the Athena is just going to have too much ground play at the end. So maybe your zone is what you're using that slot, but the zone just doesn't want to glide either. So I think you're making yourself work a lot harder. But I can tell. Here's my guess, and Zeb, if you're listening, let us know in the comments. My guess is that Zeb actually throws like 375, 380, but this Swirled Star Evelina Destroyer came out last year, and these things bomb for people that have decent arm speed. Like they bomb, and this thing is 169 grams. So I would guess that Zeb added this destroyer to his bag and was able to start pushing over 400 consistently because that disc is that good. And that has framed this sort of vibe. So that would be my just. Why is there a random destroyer? And then when you said like, oh, there's just one destroyer in a bag full of Discraft, and then I see that it's that destroyer. Yeah. Distance hack. That's a fantastic run. If I were putting destroyers back in the bag, this would be one of the first discs I would go to.
I think the Buzz OS or like overstable mid range is a good call. It's definitely missing. And one thing I would just maybe ask a question. I know the Onyx is in there, but why are we not like bagging like a Raptor or something like that type of disc, especially with a decent forehand too. So I'd just be like, is the Onyx just that feel better for that spot for him, or is there like a Raptor or something instead that we could add in there for some fun? Overstable forehands.
Yeah, because a 300, if it's 250 to 300, that's the only hard part on these ranges is 50 feet is if I can throw a 250 foot forehand max or a 300 foot forehand max, that's some different discs.
Well, I will say I probably hit an average. I can throw 280. I could put a basket out 280, 285 and hit it with a forehand Raptor like every time. But I will agree with you. Like when I've added about like 30, 40 feet. It's like that little bit of distance on my forehand made such a difference. I think it's with using a Raptor versus using something flippier. So I will say that.
Yeah.
Agree with you on there.
That's fair. Well, hey, that is going to wrap up our speed bags.
That was speedier.
We went from like 20 minutes to 12 minutes. So we're working on it. And I went long on Jay Patrick's bag. So I will acknowledge that, guys. I will acknowledge my failures. Brad did a great job. I got a little lengthy on Jay Patrick. So
it's hard. It's hard not to. That's what we do. We've done this for hundreds of episodes now.
Yeah, I get excited about it. I like helping. That is the thing that I was passionate enough about disc selection itself that is where that kind of birthed this entire thing.
Hey, and shout out Ed Hartling on this page from Canada with the UPS Castleplast Sphia. Sorry, just saw it. Very cool. Again,
I love it.
Check out Discard RPM in the bag community, and you can be part of this segment of the episodes.
I love it. Well, we have some great questions, starting with Caddy in Kalamazoo. And Caddy in Kalamazoo, Michigan, asks, my wife plays a lot of events in the Michigan Women's Series. Shout out to the Michigan Women's Series.
Shout out.
And I often caddy for her. Besides the basics of drying discs, keeping score, and carrying a bag, do you have any tips for caddies to help build up the confidence in their player? Are there different tips for caddying for someone whose game you're less familiar with? How do you caddy for someone who is better than you? So these are...
I love this question, by the way.
Yeah, I think that caddies themselves are such an underrated part of disc golf. Now, part of why I think caddies are underrated in disc golf is because, to borrow a quote from Brody that I think he gets so much slack for, And so I'm gonna say this, and people gave him slack for it because they were like, well, then why aren't you just the best ever? Disc golf is not that hard. And so when I say that, immediately people's like defense filters are going up of like, what are you telling me? It's not that hard. It's not that hard in terms of when we think about golf, what a caddy does. A couple things caddies inside of golf are, you cannot have a rangefinder out during an actual golf event, like during competitive golf.
Yeah.
So it is the caddy's job to know the course well enough to, from this marker, be able to make a read on, all right, we're 250 in. Bank. Or, all right, we're in this ditch or this hillside, and this hillside from top to bottom is 120 yards of elevation change or whatever it may be, like slopes over the next 120 yards. So we have to know that it's going to add this much and this much. So there's so much more information that the golf caddy has to provide because that information is not readily available to the player. Also, the greens shift all the time. They move around the green. So it's the caddy's job to know, hey, it's in the backside of the green on a hill. This is going to slope, so we want to make sure we're landing in this position, things like that, right? The player is obviously welcome to know these things, but the caddy is there to help with that. Lots of things in disc golf are just not that complicated. So when you're caddying, one of the biggest things I feel like you can do to build confidence in your player is to start a relationship early on with two questions. One, do you want input on shots? Because if your caddy, like if your player tells you, yes, I want your input on the shots, then they are giving you freedom to help to do that thing. Now it's your job to decide when's the right time, when's the wrong time to add that input. Like if you see them walking up with the disc to a line and you think, I'm not too sure about that. Not the right time to walk up and say, oh, Brad, is there a reason you're throwing that? When they're like lining up their shot ready to go because you've thrown them off of their groove now. So I think that's the big one. And then the second is, do you want to stay in the moment or do you want me to help distract between shots? That is a question that I have asked every single person that I've caddied for, because for a competitive round to stay in it for 2 to 4 hours is mentally draining. Whereas if you can come off of it, I come with a list of topics ready to chat about for every player so that we can get our minds out of it. So that's some quick stuff on it. I have some other thoughts, but I want to give Brad you a second to chat. You've caddied for your kids, right? You've caddied for your sons?
Yeah, for sure. And especially Eli, who is like my more competitive disc golfer. So that was kind of going to be my frame of reference, but I think that's okay. I think regardless, here's where I feel like I help Eli. Again, he's a child. He's 11, but he's pretty serious about it. So where I help Eli is I have to know the course almost better than he does. That I think is for, you may not know. Okay, so if you're, let's just say you're trying to caddy for more people or whatever. It doesn't matter if you don't know their game super well, but if you know the course super well and like, oh, you don't want to be pinched off here. Oh, hey, there's a low tree here. Oh, this, you can't know the greens fast at a disc golf course where, hey, there's a lot of roots right here. Those type of things may inform their shot selection way more than you think. Or like, oh, hey, the miss is on this side versus over here. All this, the OB sneaky close on the right side of the pin on this hole. Watch out for that. I think like that's really valuable, and I feel like that's a lot of advice I end up giving Eli when he's playing is like on this whole like, hey, don't, I think the permission conversation, even with Eli wants to come to me for questions. He does not like me to ask him questions in the round because I think it breaks his like focus and kind of almost makes him question his disc selection. But So I kind of have to let him, make a mistake and come to me, because then once he starts opening that dialogue, then it's like oh, hey, I know you're going to probably think to do a forehand on this hole, but the miss is actually here, so you probably want to do like a Annie backhand, that sort of thing, because of X feature on this hole. So I think like really knowing the holes and like the tournament layout is very helpful, because especially if you're local, you may play these courses casually and they become very different. Falling Creek's very different when it has the OB that it has for a tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's definitely,
for sure.
So just knowing the caddy book well, knowing the OB, knowing the course really well, and even inform stuff like, okay, it rained yesterday. The footing's really bad on hole 7 on the right side of the fairway. So make sure you try to land on the left side to give yourself a good upshot. So I think just knowing that stuff is going to be way more valuable. To your point about being mentally taxing, they now only have to think about their shots. And like they know their bag and their throw is way better than you. And Eli reminds me that all the time. He doesn't say that, but I won't say it out loud, but I'm like, why is he choosing that flippy echo right now? And then he does something and like parks the basket. I'm like, oh, because he knows that's not what I would do, but that's what Eli would do. So they can focus on that part of their game, which they are good at. And then you can focus on all the ancillary things that they just now don't have to use mental bandwidth for. That's my 2 cents on that, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. And you kind of touched on several of the major questions that he was asking in. How do you build up confidence in your player? When they pull out that echo and Eli throws that shot and nails it, dude, that was awesome. Way to go. Great shot.
Yep.
Great shot. One thing that I think caddies can struggle with is we don't want our player to go to a negative place. So when we see them start drifting towards a negative place, we try to overhype the positive in that moment, and that just immediately breaks the trust between you and your caddy.
Yeah.
For instance, if I'm caddying for Brody and Brody goes to throw a 25-foot putt and it doinks the cage, walking up to Brody afterwards and being like, hey, at least we didn't take a bogey there, is not the words that he needs to hear. Like it is, I need to be telling him, hey, we'll get him next time. A little more pop on that putt.
Yep.
Easy peasy. Something leaning, let the competitive player embrace their competitive edge, because that is going to help push them and excel them further. Now, if you're caddying for someone whose game you're less familiar with, I think that you need to serve the role of distraction between shots more than you need to serve the role of guidance counselor, unless you're doing what Brad's saying of like, I know the course in and out. I'm ready. I'm dialed in. I know where not to be. One of the things when I caddy for MPO players on tour is I always try to get out to the course and walk to see what I can during FPO, because I know that winds could shift throughout the day. But if I'm watching, I think about MCO, because I've caddied MCO every year that I haven't played it when it's been at Mill Ridge. And one of the shots, you throw up and over this hill into a giant open field, but you have to throw it through this gap to hit it. It's hole 4 now, I think it is, 3 or 4. So when you go to play that hole, when they first made the hole, everyone was throwing these massive shots over the trees. My player gets there the first time, and I had watched in FPO as people were throwing into that gap, there was a nasty headwind coming up over the hill that you could not feel from the tee. So I'm seeing that, and people are just burning discs over because they're hitting that headwind at the top of the hill. So I told my player, hey, just so you know, could have shifted, but something to consider when we get to 3 today, headwind coming over that hill. Just be ready. And so what did we do? We watched as the card, 2 of the card mates in front of him turned it over. Well, he already had a higher stability disc in his hand ready to go because he had made the adjustment. You don't always get that luxury, especially if you're doing a shotgun start, things like that.
Yeah.
But that's another one. But I'll tell you my golden question that I just don't understand why more people do not ask this. What are you thinking here? Because how many times, Brad, have you gone to throw a shot and you're trying to answer that question inside your own head?
Oh yeah.
What am I thinking here? Do I want to go vulture? Do I want to go FD, like overstable FD? Do I want to go with, you know what, just disc down, take the birdie look out of it, just take the par and go buzz up the gut here or whatever, or go hex. You're having all of that dialogue in your head, and while you think you're moving through it at a rational pace, you're rushing it. So then you get to the shot, you pick the wrong disc, and then you're kicking yourself because you never actually even stood a chance because you walked up with the wrong disc.
Yep.
Actually talking it out may get you to the right disc so much faster without me influencing you at all.
Yeah, because you might say, oh, I'm going to go with my flippy FD here. Well, I don't know, maybe, and you're feeling the wind. You're like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe you need like a little more stability than that. You know, yeah, I agree with you because it's forcing you. They're almost having to justify their shot selection to you without you having them justify it to you.
Correct. But what they're really doing is they're justifying it to themselves of, here's why I'm going to land here. And when you first start the round, especially if you're playing with someone you're less familiar with, you're going to, every time they answer that question, the answer is, or your response is, all right, awesome, let's rip it. All right, awesome, go get it. Let's throw a confident shot here. Like whatever they pick, you are going to hype them up that is absolutely the correct pick. And then throughout the round, you're going to start to see, hey, this is better. I think about when I was on Cadence Burgess' bag. She had this disc that she was jump putting with because the original disc she was jump putting with, she couldn't jump putt with anymore because it was not a Discmania original mold. It was one of the Evolution line, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It wasn't made by Discmania, and therefore, maybe it was Innova made. That's what it was. It was Innova made, so she couldn't use it anymore. So she was trying this other putter for like circle 2, circle 3 looks for a jump putt. And Caden's a really good putter. And she flubbed that thing 2 different times during the round. And she kept looking at it like, oh, I can't believe it turned over.
Yeah.
So I vividly remember we were on the little short par 3, and she had told me, hey, now she had just messed up the hole before. She's kicking herself. And she's like, now I'm just going to mess this hole up, and it's going to be bad. Well, she ends up puring it, gets down there, has a circle 2 look. Awesome. And I remember we're walking down the fairway. I first made fun of her for saying, oh, you remember when you tried to tell me I'm going to mess it up? And she's like, okay, whatever. And then I said, awesome. So are we just going to grab your link and putt it here? Because I don't feel like we need the floatiness of circle 2. Like, you can give it a stab with the other one. So there I am putting out an alternative that I know is probably the correct answer, but I'm still framing it as a question so that it opens up this conversation while I'm also not letting her remotely get to, oh, I should just use that other putter that I've been using. Yeah. So then what does she do? She gets up, she jump putts with the link, does the and it goes really well. And then when we walk off that hole, I said, oh, so cool. So we're just not going to use the Notion the rest of the round, right? Or it wasn't a Notion, but it was like whatever that other putter was. And she was like, yeah, I guess not. And then sure enough, like a few holes later, an opportunity comes up and she goes to grab it. And I was like, are we sure about that? And she's like, oh, yeah. Immediately switches discs and bang, we're in it. But it's just, I'm not asking them, what are you thinking on this when we're standing over the putt?
Right.
Most of the time, I'm asking them that while the person before them is throwing.
Right.
Or walking up to the disc. So,
well, and I think just one more tiny, like I guess thing that you can do would be to that point, Robbie. Like, you know, maybe you're not at the top of the tee box, maybe you're a couple back, and you're noticing like wind read or something that, and you just, I guess, clarifying that they're noticing what people are throwing and how the disc is acting in the air. Again, they might be like focused in game mode and they're just locked into what they're doing and they're not really super paying attention to what's happening in front of them maybe at that moment. But just, I think, calling out anything obvious like, oh yeah, the wind's like acting really, it's swirly down there, or, you know, like, you know, everything's getting pushed, you know, past the basket or whatever it might be. I think even just like little call outs like that, just confirming what's happening in reality is probably a good move too.
Yeah, like, oh, pick up a little grass, toss it. It seems like there's a tailwind right now. And just throw that information out there. They can choose to ignore it. That's the big thing, is that as the caddy, you cannot feel the weight of the pressure, because if you're putting information out there, it is on your player to decide to use you as a resource or to walk away from you.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter how positive I want to be. It doesn't matter how much I know the course. If my player wants to play their game and just ignore that and just wants me there for vibes, then the best thing I can do is be there for vibes and understand that, man, did I have more to offer this player? Yes. Do I think I could have helped them save 3 to 4 strokes? Absolutely. But that's not on me. That is on them as a competitor to learn how to use the resources that are in front of them. It's just as much a skill using a caddy as it is learning to throw an upshot. So next up is Yane Van. I'm going to say, I think Yane feels like the right way to describe this name.
I would think so.
Belgian guy here. Been playing disc golf for a year now. Listened for a couple months. Still learning concepts, techniques, terms, styles. Like some advice for bag building, shot selection, since I feel like these are somewhat connected. Have around 35 discs in my collection, and a couple of caveats there. So, taking this information into account, he has 10 putters, 12 mids, 9 fairways, and 2 distance drivers, which he doesn't use because he feels like they aren't doing anything yet. 1, how do I select the best option for a shot when 2 to 3 discs have similar flight numbers and similar flight path? Is there a mental part in selecting those discs, since I feel like my putters are flying the same when I'm putting?
Okay, lots to unpack here. But also not.
Yeah.
But also not.
How do you pick a disc? I think my TLDR on the question would be, how do you pick a disc when you have a lot of similar options?
Yep, I like that. I think for you, especially just been playing for a year, pretty new, I think whatever disc feels best in your, if you have the same, if you have 3 discs, similar flight numbers, similar flight path, and you're playing this just for this amount of time, I think whatever feels the best in your hand and you're the most confident with, throw that and get rid of the other 2. I don't think you need a bunch of stuff weighing down on your shot selection. So I think that for part 1, that is kind of where I'm landing on that. I think the caveat would be like, okay, 3 of those discs, and then let's say one's like a buzz, and then one, I mean, I'm trying to think of something crazy, but let's just say one's one's like
3.
Yeah, Mako 3. One's like and the other 2 are like maybe rare or harder to find discs. I think pick the one that's easiest to like find and get more plastic stuff and things like that. But I think whatever feels the best to you at the moment is going to give you the most confidence, and then that confidence is going to make you keep playing and keep wanting to get better, and that will encourage you to try other things. So I think you go down to the one that feels the best and makes you most confident.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think that when you have a lot of options, picking one and leaning into it and just trusting it for a little bit and seeing, okay, if I don't have to choose between these 3 discs, if I just have this one choice, not only am I going to get more comfortable with it, not only am I going to get more consistent with it, but I'm going to change the flight of the disc over time, so it will mold into something else. But then I know what a stock one of those did. So now I can put a second disc in there that does something now different than the original disc. And now I have 2 discs that I'm really confident in one, but my second disc has a different flight, which is not what you currently have with 3 discs that do the same thing.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think there are so many people that like want to try out a disc and want to learn a disc, and they show up with 4 or 5 options and they don't really give any of them a chance. And then they wonder like, oh, I just don't know what. Yeah, we gotta lean in and trust it. And putting putters are the same thing. Like, it is, you're right that most of them fly similar inside the circle. So it's just finding what feels comfortable in the hand that you get the same consistent release out of. Yeah. That's all that matters. Getting a consistent release, because eventually you can fix that consistent release to go in the basket.
Yeah. And coming back to the top of the episode, I feel like if you can make 90% of your putts 20 feet and in, you're in a really good spot. So keep grinding on that. And a lot of that's just comfort with your putter.
Yeah. Nicholas specifically asked, I'm shaking to my core. I'm sorry. Hopefully your insides are feeling better.
Yeah.
My absolute best disc in my bag, the Halo Sidewinder I've been seasoning for years now, is too flippy, and it's time to force her into retirement. If you were to retire your favorite disc, how would you retire it? Throw it off a cliff to fly forever? Hang it on a wall? Frame it? And most importantly, what would your eulogy for the disc be?
Wow. First of all, what's wrong with you? Any of the snakes you throw from Innova are liars. It knows took you like 40 years to get it to. It's now flippy after you threw it for what, 30, 40 years? So I will say Sidewinder is the least of those culprits probably. But
oh, man.
A Halo Sidewinder is not flippy. Not initially anyway.
I'm chuckling because I can't remember if it was this comment or if I saw another person submit it, but someone said something along those lines. It was like in their question, and they were like, "Hey, I have this disc that I really love from Innova. Sorry, Brad."
It's a Mamba. Yeah, it was a comment. It was a comment. Yeah. It's like I was talking to one of the sales reps at Innova, and they mentioned my disgust for the Mamba. It's becoming a thing.
I'm here for it.
It's okay. Anyway. If I was to retire my favorite discs, I don't know, because my first favorite disc was this pink Z Buzz, and I was seasoned in perfectly, and it was like when I finally realized kind of how to play disc golf a little bit, and I got rid of everything, and I was like just kind of like focused on some mid ranges, and I love this, and then I actually gave it away to a little girl that was learning to play disc golf. So I thought that was a very good way to send it off, send it to the farm, if you will. And then I feel good about it. It's not just sitting somewhere. I didn't just throw it in a used bin. So I liked that. And I think hanging on the wall, I want to caveat that by saying I have a special section on my shelf behind me that are kind of like special discs. I think those are fun. If it has like an ace on it, or someone gave it to me that's special, or has a special die on it, I think you keep those ones. I think Viking Funeral is obviously always a good choice.
Oh, for sure.
For that, I think that's fine too. What about you? Are you a frame it or hang it? You're a hanger.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a hanger. Like I have my discs behind me as well, and as I look through that section, I have some that are just like some cool discs, and some that are like homages to friends. Like I've got some Foundation custom stamps up there that are really fun, but don't have like sentimental meaning. They're just like really fun. Like I want to say it's like a Rock 3 with a Heck Yeah stamp on it.
Yeah.
Or just a DX Rock maybe with
KC
a Heck Yeah
Pro
stamp.
Rock.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's a KC Pro Rock, and it's like that. I mean, that stamp is really cool. And then I now chuckle because like I have a Heck Yeah stamp range in my bag, so. Like some of that, but then as I'm just walking down this like bottom line, it's like my Vegeta pig is so sick. I have a Jeff Goldblum stego that Gateway sent me.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. One of my students, Brendan Hyzer, shout out, played at Junior Worlds, and we like coached him through Junior Worlds, and so he signed his player pack disc and gave it to me. That's a Simon signed Hex. From like the week he joined MVP. And then that's my first ever custom run pig, the Destroyed Buzz over there from one of my favorite videos I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
So like I have spots for that, but like 100% when Precious Child, it is ready to come out of my bag. I know it's ready to come out of my bag. I at this point kind of want it to come out of my bag because it stresses me out throwing it, because I just know because it's time for it to go, that it's going to get lost. So I'm trying to hit an ace with it, because after all these years, I've never gotten an ace with it. I've gotten thousands upon thousands of birdies with it. No aces. And so, but it will immediately, all of this will shift down one, and Precious Child will be right here. So it'll be most visible, but there are other sentimental ones. Like my first ever ace is in the upper corner, and then my first ever ace on camera is right next to it. My first ever putt and approach disc that I really fell in love with, an AVRX3 that I have the Mandalorian This Is the Way died on, is right next to it. So my first ever run with Foundation is next to it. So my really sentimental ones are at the top, just because that way the dogs don't ever do something to like destroy them. But Precious Child can't get more destroyed, so it'll go right there. That way everyone sees it in every video. But
Yeah. My eulogy, my eulogy would be like, this circle was a good circle. I loved this circle. It loved me. It is gone to the beyond to be with his other 4 circles. The end. Rest in peace.
I think I would just play the "See You Again" track. I would play one last round, and I would play with it like a 1-disc round, and I would play "See You Again" by Charlie Puth, and do a real Fast and Furious send off for it.
I do think my FD, my orange FD, my lovely orange FD, whenever it is time for her to go, Viking funeral, my heart will go on blaring. I'm crying. The crowd's crying. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
I love it. I love it. Chris asked real quick before my question, I want to say thank you. And Robbie wanted to know your explanation on middle grip. Made a huge difference. Was a player averaging 280 to 230 to 280, now hitting 300 to 350 just from switching the grip around. So let's go. For both of you, what was the littlest change that had a huge impact on your game? The littlest change that had a huge impact on my game.
Okay. May I go first?
Yeah, fire away.
I gotta say 2. Can I say 2? They're quick.
Sure.
First one was what you pointed out to me, just off. It was an offhanded comment. It wasn't even like we had this big discussion, but you told me about like the real grip you only need on your fingers is like your front 2 fingers, so your thumb and your front finger, and kind of like positioning your grip around that. It just changed. I threw so much further. Like it just like helped me. It helped my release better, because I think I was gripping too hard at one point, and like death gripping, and that just kind of like, I think more than anything, it helped me to like relieve all the tension in my hand, which I think helped me in the long run generate more spin, if that makes sense.
Sure.
The big one is actually Kyle. Shout out Kyle. Just again, we were playing a weekly, and I was like, I felt like I was early releasing everything, like I was not hitting my release point, and I was like kind of like everything was kind of like coming out to the left. And I was like, what is happening? I feel like I'm lined up. I feel like I'm pulling through. And he was like, you're aiming with your chest, not your shoulder. Your disc is coming out closest to your shoulder, not your chest. So you're throwing where your shoulder's aimed. You're just aiming with your chest. And I'm like, oh. So that helped a ton. Like, I feel like I'm so much more accurate now.
Yeah. I think for me, the first thing that changed my game, like 100% changed my game in the biggest way, was when I found overstable putt and approach discs. Like, when I remember adding an AVRX3 to my game, because my approaches before I found an AVRX3 and just an approach disc in general was I took an XT Nova from Innova and I threw it like I was throwing a hammer in Ultimate, and I just laid it up next to the basket every time, which is part of why I'm really bad at ace running. But I would say that the biggest thing that's changed my game, so that helped me like get accurate for a while. I would say what has taken me from being good at scoring to great at scoring, especially on shorter courses, is understanding that a 20-footer is a 20-footer, whether I'm in front of or behind the basket.
Yep.
But if I'm behind the basket, it had a chance to go in. So when I'm throwing approaches, learning to throw a like floaty upshot that has a chance of going in, you think about like Sullivan Tipton gets so many throw-ins on tour and picks up strokes on people all the time for it, because he probably gets one throw in a tournament, which is a crazy statistic to think about. But it's because he knows a 20-footer is a 20-footer, whether you're in front of or behind the basket. But the one behind the basket had a chance to go in.
Right.
We are just, as golfers, we are too afraid of playing extra golf.
Right.
It's like, if the disc goes past the basket, I've thrown too much Frisbee today. Therefore, I'm eliminated. I'm disqualified. I don't know what the answer is, but you see it in people's putts. They putt timid instead of putting through the basket because they don't want to end up on the other side of the basket, but they don't have confidence behind the putt. When I throw my upshots, I remember playing around with my brother years ago, and I went to go throw a disc, and he was like, "You should disc up." And I was like, "Jake, dude, I don't need a disc up. I got this." Mm-hmm. And then I ended up like 30 short. And he goes, "Yeah, Robbie, you know the amount of times that I've ever walked up to a shot and been like, oh, I'm farther than I thought I was, compared to the amount of times that I've ever walked up and been shorter than I thought I was." Yeah, there's a reason. And also, if we just embrace that I'm probably shorter than I'm going to be, you're going to end up with a lot better shots.
Yep, that's a great.
And if you do throw a long, that's okay.
Great.
Because a 20-footer is a 20-footer, even if it's on the other side of the basket.
That's a great call out.
So, TJ said, "I am a straddle spin putter and used to line up the disc right in the center of my body with my right foot pointing at the pole." Okay, I'm having to think about this for a second. Yes. Straddle spin putter, lined up in the center of your body with your right foot pointing at the pole.
Yeah.
In my mind, both of your feet would be pointed at the pole.
I think he's just saying the right
past the pole.
I think he's saying the right. He's not straddling the basket with his body. He's like aiming to the right, like his right foot's centered on the pole. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Pointing at the pole, but now have moved the disc slightly left to get my elbow more in line with body control. This is causing me to miss left often, and I'm wondering if the remedy is to shift my whole body to the right to compensate, or if I should maybe change the path my arm is moving on. Thanks. Okay. I think I'm just having a hard time with this one because...
Let me take this one. I feel like I can visualize this.
Okay.
But I've moved the disc slightly to the left. Are you a right-handed spin putter? Did it say?
I would guess so.
Yeah. So I moved the disc slightly to the left to get my elbow more in line with my body and control it. Okay, I see what they're...
So it's almost like drawing a sword.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, and that's like giving him the more spin, I'm guessing. Causing me to miss left more often. Okay. And I'm not one... I wonder if he's like... I wonder if this is more of like a... He's like almost short-arming the spin. Like he's coming to the left more, and instead of following all the way through like he did currently, he's kind of letting it go center mass versus like to the right, which is where he was before, which is why he's lining up to the right. I'm just gonna, maybe this is a hot take. If you're not already, I think if you're straddle putting, regardless if you're spinning or push straddle putting, you've got to straddle the basket too, if that makes sense. Like you've got to line up straddling the basket. If you are offset and you're aiming, you're putting like your right leg lined up with the basket, I think you're always going to have to make a lot of right to left adjustment. And the more right and left adjustment you make, the more error you have. I think you got to just center mass your body with the basket, pretend like you're straddling like the sides of the basket. Then I think you can aim appropriately after you start doing that. But if you're, it's like windage and archery. If you're adjusting the windage and your body, like it's just, you're adding so many variables in. I think you have to center your body. And then once you figure out kind of where you're naturally going, if you're using this big left to right spin sword drawing motion, then you start changing your aim point to compensate for that. Do you feel like that's accurate, Robbie, or would you go a different way?
I'm processing a lot of information right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to visualize everything you just said while also still wrapping my head around TJ's look. So can you rephrase yours again, Brad? Just so that way give me another stab.
I got a
at
visual for you. Ready?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
See this key right here?
Yeah.
This is the basket. These are his legs.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's go this way. So right now he's lining up this way.
Okay.
I'm saying you need to center mass and line up this way. If you're straddle putting. Because right now he's lining up right foot forward, but he's coming across the full left side of his body. So of course he's missing left, especially if he's short arming it. The adjustment to make is center mass the basket's true straddle like this, and that removes like his body positioning out of the equation. And now we're only looking at aim point per se, plus like the actual spin out of your hand. But here, I think we're removing a full variable, which is, I think, important in what we're doing.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to be pure straddle, I would agree that is where you need to go, is you need to be more square to the basket. But if you're trying to like stagger and you just think that having your feet separated is a straddle, then that's not necessarily true, because a stagger and a straddle, I think that's the major difference between the two, is that where are my feet oriented towards the basket or not? So I think one of the things that's probably could be an issue when it comes to why you're missing left is, what is the elbow? You talk about how you're pulling it so your elbow's more in line. When I'm elbows more in line, and Brad, you can try to tell me if this like actually makes sense, is if you couldn't see me. Okay.
Okay. I'm not looking at you.
Yeah, I say close your eyes, because I kind of have to physically do it.
I also have a very easy fix that I just thought of too, but I want to hear your.
So if I'm trying to line my elbow up more in line with the target, I'm going to pull the elbow. If I'm focusing more elbow, I'm going to pull more with the elbow. So my elbow, when I go to spin putt, if I have it more to my left, my elbow is going to go forward while my hand comes back.
Yep.
As I start the throw. Now, at one point during the throw, that's obviously not a good spot to release the disc. Right. So at some point during the throw, those are going to have to switch. My hand's going to have to come forward, and my elbow is going to come back.
Yep.
Got that visual?
Yep. And it's actually causing your shoulders to move.
Well, even if I don't use my shoulders that much, if I just point my elbow, like if I push my elbow out, my hand stays centered, and then I can like flip. Yep. This is very similar to figure eighting, which is a thing that I highly advise not doing, because it generates a ton of power and people get addicted to the power, but it's so hard to aim it. And that is where I think the issue is that because you're likely the wrist is going to collapse when you do this. So you're trying to find the integrity of how much can I engage the wrist and pop the wrist to get that spin putt. But because my elbow is getting forward and then switching to come backwards, that is causing issues to send the disc out and forward. So it's slipping out on its way. Whereas what I would like to see is my elbow and my hand come back at the same time, and then my elbow and my hand extend forward at the same time.
Yeah, makes sense. Can I like undersimplify, or can I like maybe oversimplify this? Is that the phrase I want to say?
Away.
TJ, I say this with love, my friend. You're aiming with all the wrong stuff, brother. You're aiming with all the wrong stuff. I think if you're straddling, your feet need to be shoulder width apart at least, and you need to point your sternum directly in line with the basket. Again, if we're talking just straight on, obviously trees and such, but you need to aim your body with your sternum, line it up with the basket. And when you're spinning, it doesn't matter if you're, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you're spin putting or you're push putting. What I'm aiming with, honestly, I'm aiming at the end with my hand. Like, I don't care really much about my elbow or where, I'm like thinking of, I'm putting the pizza in the basket, I'm shaking hands with the basket, I'm aiming with like my pointer finger and my thumb at the end of the day. So I think maybe like focus on those things and stop worrying about your elbow and all this other stuff. That I feel like we're adding a lot of variables. Putting's hard enough already. We don't need to add all these other variables in. So maybe just focusing on centering your body to the pole of the basket, and upon your release, making sure, I mean, I know spin, like the technique's different, so I'm not like being ignorant there, but if you're still trying to like push into like, just try like a bunch of reps doing that and trying to push into the center of the basket. And if every one of those are left, then aim more right. You know what I mean? Is that like too simple, Robbie? Does that make sense? But I just feel like there's a lot of unnecessary variables maybe. I think maybe some bad habits started, and then to correct them, you added more complicated variables.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's, something was wrong in the car, and so instead of getting this thing fixed, we added 4 more knobs and gadgets to it that are also hard to aim and things like that. So I think you're on it. I think that aiming piece is what's getting you. Is I don't mind having the elbow involved in the aim, but how it's all going about it is very tough. And I think that it's another one that we look at a Gannon Burr who pulls to the left, and there's a reason that Gannon Burr is Gannon Burr, and there's not a lot of other people who can putt like Gannon Burr out there. Mm-hmm. Like, what he's doing is difficult. So, Brad, we got time for one more coming from Dave at Old Disc RPM.
Yeah, he was emailing us about the new features, and he had like a one-off question or I guess thought, and he was like he would like an episode on it, but I don't know if this is a full episode, but we definitely should talk about it because I thought it was a great question. So I paraphrased it, so I'll read it. He said, "What are the discs that inevitably help you fall back in love with disc golf during the hard seasons of trying to improve or perform better?" So I thought it was an outstanding question, personally.
Yeah, almost like a soul food, like a comfort disc that you can come back to. Oh man, when life got hard. The pig definitely holds that spot for me. Like, there's something about just grabbing a pig when my forehand fell off for a little while. Coming back to a pig and throwing it felt really good. Kind of walking up the line, I would say inside the mid-range category, it's gonna be probably a Dune by Trash Panda. I really enjoy, because the Dune by Trash Panda is understable, but I wouldn't call it super flippy, which is fantastic. So I can throw it on some Hyzer flips. I can throw it on some smooth turnovers. It has a lot of glide to it. And it's easy, free distance, which is awesome. Like that's exactly what I'm looking for. On the fairway side, and most of these answers for me are just going to be understable discs, except for the Felon. The Felon is a comfort. It's a soul food. A Fusion Felon, super stock, makes my forehand feel amazing. But on the understable fairway side, a Discraft Sting. Okay, like, it is if things are feeling off, just put a Sting in the bag. It's just going to do everything you need it to do. It's so good. And the Cicada is filling that slot a little while, but the Cicada, you have to put some on in order to get in order to get the turn out of a Cicada that you can get out of a Sting. You got to hit it hard.
Yeah. Right.
And then, distance driver, it's probably a Wraith.
A Wraith. Okay, so you did kind of, I would probably guess that one. So I guess if I want to go through like the different types of discs for sure, I will say, and I was really thinking about this, and this is probably not the answer that you would maybe expect out of me. If I had to pick one disc that does this for me, I feel like if I'm having a hard time playing disc golf, or I'm not playing enough, or I'm like disappointed in my putting, or I played around and I just feel out of practice, you know what disc golf disc makes me feel the best and have the most fun with is throwing the glitch, like with my kids. That I have so much fun doing. We took I'll say caveat, the Spore is kind of replacing that for me, because the Spore
it's softer.
It's softer. So and we like to wing it at each other. So I would say Spore. We went to the lake a couple weeks ago, me and the family did, and we were just playing in the lake, and guess what we brought out? We had a bunch of beach toys. The first thing the boys brought out was the Spore, and we threw it for over an hour, and it was a blast, and we're diving to catch it, and that, I don't know, that is the soul food of disc golf for me. I'm like, disc golf it's fun. I remember why I love this. I love playing with my family. This disc is fun. Throwing these type of discs are fun. They're way more fun to throw than an ultimate lid, in my opinion, on the beach and stuff like that. And like, oh, look at this cool Hyzer shot. Oh, I can make this float on Annie and then come back. You know what I mean? It just like makes me fall in love with like disc flight and just throwing something and having a good time. If I'm going through on like actual discs, Eclipse Envy is always the putter that makes me fall in love with. Like, I just, it's hard for me to throw that disc poorly, which or let's say Envy in general. I just love that disc. Zones are always fun. My Orange FD and the E-Duke lately. The E-Duke gives me a lot of confidence, and I also love the Quake. I have like this weird confidence with the Quake that just makes me feel good because I just trust it so much. It's just fun to throw like a huge Hyzer with the Quake. It's fun to throw a flex line, and then my Mandalorian Lift. I can just throw a really good forehand, and nothing makes me more confident in my forehand than that disc. So I think those are the discs I probably would say, and special shout out to the uplink, because sometimes I'm not feeling it, and I just want to throw like real easy, gentle turnovers. Uplink is so fun to throw. Big sky annies, fun to throw.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let us know in the comments what your comfort discs are. What disc, when things are going awry, what you come back to. I could see a world that the Quake really starts filling that slot for me, just because it's what I wanted a longer pig to be.
Yeah.
And it's been really, really fun to throw. I've really enjoyed having it in the bag. So that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode, ladies and gentlemen. And next week, we have some awesome ones to start. We got Brandon from Idaho asking about overlapping discs and making a bag for a friend. And then we have friend of the podcast, Andrew M, Mr. Magnelli himself, who talking about coming from Ultimate. So if you are a longtime Ultimate player, like the crew over at old MKHB, let's talk. So it's going to be a good time. Looking forward to answering those in episode 153. And then once again, comment your bags down below, because you could be chosen to be reviewed next week. And if not, if you want your bag to be roasted, you just want to go ahead and say, hey, don't even try to put me in this drawing. Just put me in the roast section. Let us know that as well.
Well, speed roast. If we get enough, we're going to speed roast. I mean, it's going to be great.
For sure. So that is what we've got for this part of it. But Brad, there are some other things coming in. Some amazing discs coming into the warehouse.
Yeah.
What's new in the warehouse?
So, very cool week this week. They're finally here, folks. The Robbie C, the new Robbie C stamp discs. Let me grab one.
Come on.
Because for our visual people, this one is the one I'm most excited about. Can you say glow ring top zones?
Yeah.
What? With the mini bird, as I call him. These feel so good. Robbie's are almost to him via UPS right now, but Robbie, these feel so good. They have like a little flex to them, but they're like also stiff. They're like that, just like nice medium amount of stiffness. And I'm gonna bag one of these boys. It's going in. It's going in.
Come on.
I'm gonna kick my other, like my overstable option for my zone out and put this in. But so we have ESP cicadas, we have glow ring top zones, the Robbie zone, and we have some Z buzzes for the new hotness in your bag. So we want to give you all some more options from the Robbie C line. So make sure you pick those up. We don't have a ton of them, so get them while they last. And let us know, are there other discs we should run with this stamp? Because we want to give you all some options for. And Robbie, I'm excited to see you unbox them and throw them too, because I really can't wait to see you throw the cicada.
Yeah, guys, the cicada has been, as much as I want to say the Sagara has been the surprise disc of the year, the Trail was the surprise disc of last year, and the cicada has been this year for me. Just absolutely money. It's so good. So good. Yeah.
Other notable mentions here, we have the Nordic Phenom dropped as well. It's triple stamp, looks super sweet. We have the Glow P2X, the fundraiser for DMC. So a lot of cool stuff going on there, obviously, with the creators. And the boys are going to be out there, too, doing a special thing I can't quite leak yet. So that will be fun as well. We have some classic Orbit Judges and Wardens, which are so cool. If you're a Judge person, then you got to jump on those. Like, they look so incredible, and they feel great, too. The Grace and the Peak restock. The Grace has gone in my bag, Robbie, and I can throw that disc so far. So far. It is ridiculous. Like, I've never found it, the Trail actually will flip up and turn a little bit for me. The Grace is just like pushes straight forever for me with like steady fade. So it's not like that overstable, like it's not so touchy that it's going to turn over for me, but not so overstable that I can't push it. So I'm throwing it like consistently like 330, 340. I've thrown it as far as 400, but we're not counting that. We're not counting that. I got to throw it for like a month at a time that far before I count it. But it's pushing me to that like 375, 400 mark. Along with some, it's not just the disc, people, it's form changes too. But you can get some tips from Robbie, because they came from Robbie that have helped me get this distance. If you want to book some lessons, there is a discount code in the description, so make sure you book some episodes or lepisodes lessons with Robbie as well, to give you some tips, tricks there. And last but not least, Ripped Evolution 2 is in the house, everybody. Our collab we do with the KNA Games, the people that own Ripped Revenge, and I'm very excited for this. So we're doing a soft launch, so we're going to go ahead and they're going to be on our website. They're going to be available for purchase this weekend. The boys are filming an episode with it, so you get to see the full gameplay and everything coming out. So, but pick them up early, get them in hand, play them with your friends, and watch the boys, destroy each other with them. So that'll be a lot of fun. No spoilers, Robbie, but you may or may not be getting some in your package as well that's coming to you.
Live rips.
Hey, I'm into the rips. And then obviously Crazy Caddy Foundation Edition. I just want to throw that out there. Getting all the Foundation custom games out there. So when you and your buddies, your family, whomever, are out playing disc golf, and you want to add a little twist, a little flair, we got a couple options for you. But whether you're playing games, or you're throwing some good discs, or you're getting some nice Foundation Robbie C accessories, if they're good, Robbie, where do they keep them?
Keep them in the bag. We'll see you guys next week.
See y'all.